Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is HR Funk, and this is my firing line. This is the online show that is completely driven by you, your questions, and your comments. Otherwise, I would be busy polishing my newly awarded star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And you can see that right behind me here. As many of you know, I was recently in Hollywood, as in about a week ago. And I'll get to that story and our adventures while we were in California here in just a little bit. But I have some other things to lead in with today. Beginning with, it has been just an unbelievable summer for me. It seems like it was just June and I blinked and we're almost to Labor Day. And trying to keep the video production going and keep up with content coming in and everything that goes along with operating the channel has just been a monumental challenge, truthfully. I'm happy that I've been able to keep the production schedule going as routinely as I have. I think I might have missed one or two, maybe regular days, a Wednesday, maybe and a Saturday throughout the course of the summer of 2025. But all in all, it has gone pretty well. I hope you've all enjoyed the videos. I've tried not to make them too rushed and be able to keep the quality of the videos to the level that you expect. So there has just been a ton of things going on. There's going to be a lot more to come. With the contacts that I've been making throughout the course, really of the last year or so, but I think especially this year with going to the SHOT Show and going to the Gathering and GunCon, and not only just meeting up again with people that I've already talked to and people from companies that I've worked with in the past, but also making new connections out there. I've got a lot of stuff that has been either has come in for a video and I've already had the video produced and went out to all of you, or it's produced and waiting to come out for all you to be seen. And I get into that once in a while with the X-Star EP9. I mentioned that I had a optic on there that I'm testing, and people have asked me in the comment, what's the optic, when's it coming out, all those kind of things. And it's one of these things that the optic came to me from the company with the stipulation that I not make any announcement of it or put out any information of it until their official launch date, which is coming up very soon. And the video will go live on that day, which brings me to my video schedule for this week. There's not going to be a normal Wednesday video. Now, I've got a short video that's probably going to come out early in the week, maybe Tuesday. I'm thinking maybe Tuesday morning. I might let that one go live. And I don't know if I'm going to do all the premiere and everything else. I might just have that go live. And then all of you, when you see it come up in your feed, can watch the video. But then later in the week is going to be the launch date for this optic I'm talking about. So that video will premiere at that time so that it corresponds to the launch of that optic. So that's, and like I said, I get into those kind of things once in a while where I've got products coming in, but for one reason or another, it can't be released or can't be made public till a certain time. So that also, it adds a little bit to the difficulty because I've still got to produce the video. I've got to have it all ready to go. So all the time and everything associated with that has to go into it. But then since I can't release it until some point in the future, I've also got to get another video that's done during that same time so I can release that for part of the regular production schedules. Like I said, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's a labor of love. I enjoy it. I hope all of you continue to enjoy everything that comes out in the videos. I know not everything that I talk about in every video appeals to every one of you, but to me, it's everything that I look at in the videos and everything I talk about is something that, for me personally, I have some interest in, whether it's optics or rifles or black powder firearms or whatever. It's something that in my very broad interest in everything related to firearms, all of these things are items that I like working with, I like learning about, and hopefully at least some of you get something out of it. Let's see, we got 34 people in here, and I'm going to back up the comments just a little bit to say hi to some of you. And wow, we got a lot of comments already too that I haven't even noticed. Chris 1911 was here very early. Craig Benz is here. Ben Crane. Hi, Ben. By the way, Ben, Sorry that I was bugging you yesterday. I was trying to get that phone call to go through, and for some reason it kept coming up showing that it was going through as a FaceTime message or something like that. And I kept ending the call and trying to get it to go through as a regular phone call, and it wouldn't do it. So if you got like two or three phone calls in a row and you thought that I was losing my mind, it was just because I was trying to get the phone to work right. So again, I apologize if I bugged you at a bad time. Skip Boyer is here. How you doing, Reverend Skip? And Skip went for a 3-mile walk this morning with a 50-pound pack. Good for you. Bill 1717. And Katie Cowboy is here. Welcome, Katie. Hope I'm not missing too many people as I go down through here. Nate Huxtable. Terry Barnes is here. And I thought I saw somebody else. Steve Detweiler. And if I missed your name going down through, there's Loves Dogs 1954. He has joined us as well. And Fernand Landry. Matt Lowry is here. How you doing, Matt? My old high school buddy. Good to see you. And Ben says your NDAs in the GUD2 world is how you know you've made it. No, I've got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That's how I know that I've made it. By the way, I had some fun. I also was able to get a photograph taken of myself with an Oscar while I was out there in Hollywood. And I put it up on one of the community posts, and I said something like, finally my talent was recognized and I got the award that I always deserve. Some nonsense like that. And I think some people saw that and thought that I actually received some kind of an award. I don't know if they didn't realize it was an Oscar or what, but there were some people. And then I felt bad because I felt like I was misleading people or deceiving people. But it was just a joke. It was kind of a ha, look, here's HR with an Oscar. But like I said, I will get into all those adventures and misadventures here in a little bit. Let me see if we got any comments that I need to respond to before we get into those things. Can we have an abnormal Wednesday video? That there's an argument there that everyone that comes out is an abnormal Wednesday video, or Abby normal, as Igor would say. Abby someone. Abby who? Abby normal. From Young Frankenstein, one of my favorite movies. So the background's getting on Skip's eyes. And I'll take that down a little bit. I just put it up to have a little bit of fun. Thank you, Rich. I will do my best to keep up with that. Scott Whitehurst is here from Southern Indiana. Craig Ellis loves the Hollywood Star. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And by the way, Ben was kind enough to loan something for me to use here on the channel. You're going to see a video of that coming up. I think that's going to be next Saturday's video. I've got most of the video recording done. I've got to get the editing finished, and that's going to be coming up very soon for all of you to enjoy. Jeff Tim proved nobody watches the Oscar awards anymore. There hasn't been a movie come out that I think has been worthy of an Oscar or even really worth watching in a long time. Last night, I watched the 2019 adaptation of The Call of the Wild, the famous Jack London novel. And I was watching with Chewy. It was kind of funny because the dogs are running around and barking and pulling sleds and everything. And if you've never seen a dog watch TV, he was glued to the TV last night watching that. It was pretty funny. I've got a photograph of it, and I wish I could put that up for you to see. But the downside of that, it starred Harrison Ford, and I remember when the movie came out, and I've always been a fan of that novel. But the dogs, and I think really all the animals in there were CGI, and it was almost like watching a cartoon. I really felt that they lost something by not having real animals in there. Remember back in the old days, back in the 60s and 70s, when they would make movies about whatever, the Mountain Men or something like that, and there would be a bear scene, and it was a real bear that they had trained that would chase the actor around or whatever, and you knew it was a real bear. It was moving like a real bear and all that kind of thing. Dogs, wolves, all those kind of things were real animals. Now they are CGI animals, and like I said, I really just thought that movie lost something because of that. Frankenstein, yeah. What knockers? And man, these comments are going so fast. I'm trying to read them. Everything was better in the 60s. All right, let me take down my star here because I think it is a little bit maybe distracting. And I will get on with the show here momentarily. All right, no more star, back to my normal office set. Anyway, as you know, the last time that I produced a live stream, I was at the beach down in South Carolina, which has now been, what was that, 3 weeks ago? 3.5 weeks ago, something like that. We were down there for a week helping my daughter move. And she is starting, and in fact, just within the last couple of days, started her senior year with the University of South Carolina. And she is in their School of Music down there. A lot of you remember when I used to play the intros for my videos, her music that I recorded her playing a piano back when she was about 13 was my lead-in music for a long, long time in the videos. And she's in the Music Industries Studies program, which is the business side of the music industry, all of the production of music and that kind of thing. And as part of her school, she has to have internships at certain places. And I don't even know if it matters where she has them, but she has to be involved in internships where she's actually doing work in the music industry. And she applied for and was accepted into this. It was billed as an internship, but it was more like a 3-day intensive study course at Warner Brothers Studio in Hollyood, California. And she was there for 3 days with people who work on major motion picture soundtracks. And these are the sound engineers that do all of the sounds you hear in the movies, everything from the actors' voices and the sound effects that are mixed in, and any musical score, all those kind of things. These are the people that do all of that, and she was there with them. It ended up being more of an instructional course. I don't think she got to do a lot of hands-on things, but they were talking about how they do what they do in the movies. And for a 21-year-old kid to go out there and see all of that, how the production is done. And she was in the Clint Eastwood scoring studio. So that might tell you something right there. I didn't know it, but Clint Eastwood apparently does a lot of the sound engineering and musical scoring for his own movies. So that's just another one of his many talents. And they have not only a studio there for him, but Clint Eastwood has an office there. I got to see Clint Eastwood's office. So I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit in the story. We flew out on Friday, no, excuse me. We flew out on a Thursday. So it was a week ago this past Thursday, I think. We flew out, got there. Now, what we didn't know, I've only ever been in Southern California once before in my life for a very brief period of time, certainly not long enough to learn the lay of the land. And my wife was in San Francisco earlier this year, but I think that's the only time she's ever been to California. I don't think she's ever been to Southern California. So what we didn't know is that our hotel was in Burbank, and it was almost literally across the street from the Burbank airport. We didn't know that. So we flew into LAX, which was about an hour southeast of where we were actually staying. Had we known that, we could have flown into Burbank and saved ourselves a little bit of travel time. But as it was, we got to LAX, we had to take a lift to get to our hotel. And I think it's the Ventura Highway. We drove up the highway and basically went right past downtown LA. So I got to see from a distance, all the various buildings and everything. So we got to see some sights as we were driving. One thing I did not see when I was in Southern California, and I was kind of surprised with all the devastation that we saw with the wildfires from back, what was at the beginning of this year. I didn't see anything that any damage or anything like that. So I'm sure it was there. We just didn't happen to drive through the right area to see any of that. But we did get to our hotel, got all settled in and everything. So Friday was the first day of my daughter's class. And from our hotel to Warner Brothers Studios was probably 15 minutes, something like that. It didn't take very long to get there. So while she was going through and going to the Clint Eastwood studio and all that, Mimi and I took a tour of Warner Brothers Studio, which was cool. And it started out, we drove through the back lot. So you see a lot of the buildings that they use for all kinds of different movies. There's a sort of a picturesque downtown area. There's neighborhood areas where there are houses and other buildings and different things. A lot of them that we've seen in a lot of different movies. And as we were we were riding in what amounted to a gigantic golf cart that seated about, I don't know, probably 20 people or something like that. So we're riding around Warner Brothers Studios, and we have a guide who's driving the golf cart thing, and he's talking on a microphone about, this has happened here, this has happened there, something else there. The only bad thing was our guide was probably 30, maybe something like that, maybe not even quite. So a lot of the movies and TV shows and things that he was talking about that have been filmed rather at Warner Brothers Studios are things from the last maybe 10 years that I couldn't care much less about. We went by one of the sound stages, and on the outside of the sound stages, they've got a list of all the movies that have been recorded there. And one of them was Lethal Weapon. I'm like, hey, tell me about that. Well, of course, that's from back in the 80s. And I don't even know if you knew what the movie was about, but yeah, so we kind of had to look and pick and choose. There were things that I recognized from various movies. There's a courthouse, or at least the facade of a courthouse, that I've seen many, many times in a lot of different movies because it has very distinct windows that have sort of an X pattern on the panes of the outside of the windows. And I saw that courthouse there. So that was kind of cool. I know that I've seen that in many, many movies. And we continued around. We went into some of the sound stage. Now, the sound stage that we went into is the one that's used for the Jennifer Hudson show. And it was all set up for that. And the furniture and everything was there for her show, which is another one of those shows that I've never watched, really don't know anything about. It was neat to see the soundstage. Now, one thing I got to say, a little bit of a pat on my back. Seeing the sound stages and looking at how I've rigged up my shop with the lighting and the various things I've done for sound and one thing and another, and some of the other things that they talked about with production of TV shows and movies and things like that are things that I've figured out through trial and error that I actually do in my videos. So it's funny. It's kind of like, hey, I do that and I do that. Unfortunately, I do it all. Whereas for a real actual professional production, unlike what I do, they have people that do sound and people who do camera work and people, producers and directors and actors who actually know what they're doing. And for me, it's just all me. But anyway, Warner Brothers Studios was cool. I enjoyed the tour. I wish it had been a little bit longer. It was only like an hour tour, and then they dropped us off, and we went walking through an area where they have a lot of the different props and things like that you've seen in the movies. They had some of the Harry Potter stuff. They had some of the sets, very small sets. Like they had the staircase where he lived under the stairs in the first movie. His little bedroom area was in there and stuff like that. They had various things from the Batman movies, Batmobiles, and one thing and another. They had, I think, all the different costumes from all the Batman movies, going all the way back to the Michael Keaton movie in, what year was that? 1988, 89, something like that. So you could kind of see the evolution of the costumes that they've used and things like that. So it was interesting. And for somebody like me who's a movie buff, I thought it was cool. Like I said, I just wish it would have gotten more back into, if he would have had a part of the tour where we could have walked into Rick's Cafe from Casablanca, I'd probably still be there. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. But anyway, like I said, that was cool. And let me get back here and check out some of the questions and comments, because again, I have been ignoring those while I've been blabbing. Katie Cowboy, my cousin did computer animation for the film Britannic. Really? Cool. He was in England and met Jacqueline Bisset. Wow. Skip Boyer, best thing about seeing California is seeing it in your rearview mirror. Yeah. By the time we were there for 4 days, and I was definitely ready to come home. I was really tired of paying outrageous prices for not very elaborate meals and things like that. It was definitely a nice place to visit, but wouldn't want to live there kind of experiences. Yes, Warner Brothers did produce the Dirty Harry movies, and they actually had a couple of things around. They had like a movie poster from the original Dirty Harry movie, and there were one or two other little things, but not very much. Matt Lowry, back in truck driving days, went all over California. Nice state, bad government. I agree. And I think that mayor in Los Angeles is nuts. Ben Crane, Lethal Weapon 2 has something to do with my love of that platform. I think there's a lot of people in that category. And I know with the HK-MP5, its use in the Die Hard movies sort of made that even more iconic. When I think of the MP5, I think of it because of its role historically with special operators, particularly in European countries. But it's just a cool submachine gun. But a lot of people have that association with it from the Die Hard movies and other movies as well. Oh, by the way, the star that I showed you a little while ago, the one that was up behind me, that's actually Chuck Norris's star. I just did a Photoshop over it and put HR Funk on there. And so hopefully Chuck won't mind me borrowing his star. I promise to give it back when I'm done. Skip Boyer, I want an LTT Elite. Yeah, so do I. I just don't want to pay for it. Jeff Barron was born in Hollyood. Wow. How long did you end up living there? Craig Benz rather a P226 than a 92. The old controversy. So that was our first day there. Next day, Saturday, again, Samantha ended up having to go back to the studio, back to the Clint Eastwood soundstage. And see, what did we do on the second day? That might have been the day we went to the walk. No, I think Sunday is the day we went to the Walk of Fame. Anyway, one of those days we went to the Walk of Fame. So downtown, actual intersection of Hollyood and Vine, the famous epicenter of Tinseltown. And we're walking around. We got there fairly early in the morning. And I got to tell you, I was really sort of disappointed by that. Whenever you see it in the movies or on a TV show or everything, it just seems like it's sparkling. Everything is almost iridescent or glowing. You know what I mean? When you see it. And when you get down there in real life, it's kind of dingy. The sidewalk is kind of crumbling. A lot of the stars are cracked. And now there was a guy out there with some sort of a little scrubbing machine going over the stars when we got there. So he was cleaning them off, which was good, I guess. But the rest of the sidewalk still had Lord knows what kind of substances all over it. Probably a lot from the night before, because I think we were there on, now that I think about it, Sunday morning. The facades of the buildings are kind of dingy and kind of just old, I guess. It just doesn't look very good down there. We got to the Chinese Theater, which is a couple of blocks. I guess it would be east of the Hollyood and Vine intersection. And it was kind of cool because we saw some of the footprints in the concrete that were there from the various actors. I was standing right by Nicolas Cage's footprints, but they had the area sectioned off so you couldn't walk into it. And they were actually covering up all the various footprints and things in the concrete with a carpet because they were getting ready for a premiere of Nobody 2. So they were going to be premiering that evening, I guess. But even the Chinese Theater just looked kind of run down and dingy. It looked like it could definitely use some paint and some attention to its maintenance. So that whole experience being downtown in uh, on Hollywood Boulevard really left me kind of unimpressed. When I think about other places I've been, whether it's Nashville or even a lot smaller places or bigger places, going to New York City, going to Times Square and places like that, uh, Hollywood was definitely the least well kept of all of those areas. And of course, you've got the other issues with the area, various homeless people that are passed out in doorways and people with some sort of mental ailments standing on benches yelling at people as you're walking down the street and those kind of issues. So just I don't know. And certainly there was the whole tourist trap feel of the place because there were various little shops along through there where you could spend $400 on a shirt that says "I love Hollywood" or something like that. But no, I just I don't know. It was neat seeing the stars. We did the entire walk, all around Hollywood Boulevard and Vine, and looked at everybody's stars, and we got pictures of some of them. But overall, the experience was just not something that I would feel inclined to do again. It's one of those nice to do it once, can say I've been there, say I've seen it, got a few pictures, and that's probably the last time I'll ever be in that area. Tom White, sound engineering is incredible difference between big theater and a small TV sound. Yeah, there is a lot that goes into sound engineering, and I've learned some of that the hard way. One of the biggest things that I struggled with in my videos back as I was trying to get better and better at producing them was my sound quality, and it's something I still have an issue with from time to time because little things will affect it. The size of the room you're in will affect it. When I'm outdoors, I have different sound than when I'm indoors. If the wind is blowing from this direction instead of that direction, or whatever, the distance to the microphone, the type of microphone I'm using, all those kind of things come into play. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into it for people who really know what they're doing and they know what all those little dials and all the little sliding levers and everything actually do. There is a tremendous amount that goes into it. And I'm just going down through some of these comments here. Elaine's Domain, you walked around Hollywood and Vine. Yes, yes, we did. That area sucks. That's kind of the impression I came away with. Oh, and that was another thing. So I forget now. I guess I was having a conversation, maybe back and forth in the comment section or something, where people were asking about me about having a firearm while I was in California and being able to carry one there under the auspices of the Law Enforcement Safety Act. Um, and I did not take a firearm with me. I would like to have had one, but I did not take one. And it wasn't, and somebody very good naturedly sent me an email saying, hey, under Leosa, you can legally carry in California, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I know that I can. The problem you run into, and maybe I should even produce a video on this, is Leosa is not a magic shield that says you can carry a firearm and you don't have to worry about anything, just go have at it. When you're in these local jurisdictions, you still have to abide by all of their state and local laws. So you can legally carry a firearm, but if they have a local law that says something like, whatever, retired police officers under Leosa can't carry a firearm on Sunday afternoons between 2 and 6 or something like that, and you don't know that, and you're a retired officer carrying a firearm between 2 and 6 on a Sunday afternoon and you get caught, then you're in violation of the law. One of the big ones that I've heard police officers getting into trouble with, off duty or retired, is going somewhere and going through a school zone and not knowing they're in a school safety zone. And the school safety zone is within 1,000 feet of the boundaries of the school. Now think about that, not the wall of the school, but the boundaries of the school property. So however big the school campus is, 1,000 feet out from that is the school safety zone. And for a lot of these states, and think about California. I don't even know what all constitutes a school out there. They got acting schools and cooking schools and dancing schools and who knows what. And if and if they're all classified as schools, which I don't know under California law, if they're all classified as schools under California law, and I go bebopping through there carrying my firearm, and somebody goes, "That guy's got a gun," I could potentially be in violation of law with no intention to do so, just because I'm ignorant of the laws in that state. So, not knowing that, and the myriad other laws in the state of California and local laws in the Los Angeles area, I just didn't want to have to run the risk of something happening and all of a sudden getting in trouble or getting one of my firearms confiscated or something like that. Um, just because I was crossing my fingers and hoping for the best under Leosa. So that's the reason I did not have a firearm with me out there. Ben Crane, Nobody was a pretty good flick. You know what? I was watching a review for Nobody 2, and the reviewer was also talking about the original Nobody, which I never saw. And I thought, maybe that wouldn't be a half bad movie. I might actually take a look at it. Like I said earlier, I haven't seen much in the last probably 10 or maybe even 15 years out of Hollywood that's made me want to jump up and run to the theater. We did see the new Superman movie while we were in California. So we took in a movie while we were in Hollywood. Um, and that was pretty good. It was entertaining. It was not phenomenal. It was not something that I'm going to be talking about for the rest of my life. What a great movie it was, or anything like that. But it was all right. If you are looking for something to do on a Saturday night, and the Superman movie is playing, and you haven't been to a theater for a while, and you want to buy some popcorn and sit down and watch a flick, it's not bad. Jeff Barron lived a couple of blocks from Hollywood Boulevard for a couple of years. Used to walk each evening for exercise. One night was walking around. A guy came quickly around a corner, bumped into me with such. This is going to be continued, apparently. Such force that he fell to the ground. I helped him up and realized that he hadn't realized why he hadn't seen me. It was Peter Falk. At least I assume that's Peter Falk. It says Peter Flack in here. That's cool though. I always liked him. Good actor. Fun in the Columbo TV series. I saw him in a movie later on in his career. It was called, I think, Roommates. That was a pretty good movie. Probably back in the late '90s is when that came out. Californians are completely fine with all those things. Elaine's Domain, Georgia has a lot of movies made there. Yeah, I've seen that and heard that. Peter Falk. That's what I thought. Just one more thing. Katie Cowboy, wasn't the Dukes of Hazzard filmed in Georgia? Parts of it were, and parts of it were actually filmed at Warner Brothers. There was on the back lot. There was an area there with some of the buildings, and they said that's where portions of the Dukes of Hazzard had been recorded. Craig Benz, does that mean no hollow points in New Jersey for Leosa? I think it does. Yeah, you would still have to abide by all of the local laws. If you go to New York and you have a firearm with more than, what does New York deign to allow people to have these days, 8-round magazines or something like that. If you're in New York with a whatever 15-round magazine, potentially you could be in violation of New York law. Everyone today is technically a criminal. Elaine's Domain applies to public schools. Thanks for that clarification. Like I said, I didn't know that, and I've heard those kind of horror stories. In fact, I heard the horror stories like that coming out of New York City, where they also have every building just about has some sort of a school or another in it. And I'm just zooming down through the comments right now. A lot of comments on Georgia and their film industry. Nate Huxtable, 10 rounds. Okay, I couldn't remember what it was. For some reason, I was thinking it was 8 rounds. Thanks for that clarification on New Jersey law, KD. Good morning to you, Tactical Jackalope. So, after our adventures at Hollyood and Vine and Warner Brothers Studio and going to see the Superman movie, we did a couple of other things while we were out there. We went to the LA Zoo one day, which was all right. It wasn't. It was just all right. It wasn't at the greatest zoo I've ever been to, but it was okay. We also, probably one of the more interesting things we did, we went to the Griffith Observatory, which I've seen aerial views of. I know periodically they'll do a concert or something up there, but that was cool. It's on top of this very high, I wouldn't really call it a mountain, but it's a big hill that overlooks the entire LA area, and you can see basically everything out in front of you there. You get a great view of the Hollyood sign. I actually have a photograph of that also that I took while we were there. And we went inside, we took in a planetarium show. The observatory was built in 1934, if I remember correctly, same year as the National Firearms Act. And it was interesting to see all the different things that they had inside there. So that was a fun trip. I enjoyed that, enjoyed the views. And it's also, if you're in that area, I don't think it costs anything to get into the observatory. There's a couple of things. If you do the planetarium show, that costs like $10 a piece or something, and it's not very expensive. And we also had a tour while we were there. So a tour guide kind of took us through and showed different things about the observatory and the area and one thing and another. So that was fun. I would recommend that if you're in the LA area and just looking for something to do to kill a couple of hours, check out the Griffith Observatory. I like that better than the zoo. Gary Ellis, thanks for joining. Have a great day. Jeff Tim, yeah, those are those weird little laws. And we actually had a gun shop in the city where I used to work that was within half a block of an elementary school. And there was a controversy for a while because the gun shop had been there forever and the school had been there forever. And then all of a sudden somebody figured out one day that the gun shop was inside the school safety zone, and that went back and forth and back and forth. And I think basically everybody just decided to ignore it and look the other way. The gun shop eventually did go out of business, but not because of anything to do with the school. But yeah, some of the laws are just there's not enough thought that goes into legislation sometimes as to exactly whether it needs to exist, and if so, how it needs to be executed. Did you bring home a souvenir homeless person? No. San Diego Zoo is much better. Griffith Observatory is fantastic. Yeah, I've never been to the San Diego Zoo. Was in San Diego very briefly when I got out of the Marine Corps the first time. Actually, I was at Camp Pendleton, so I spent very little time in San Diego. Camp Pendleton for about a week, San Diego Airport, and then home. Griffith Observatory is featured prominently in Rebel Without a Cause. Yeah, they actually have a monument there with James Dean's picture on, and a little spiel that talks about that movie. Ben Crane, if memory serves, Ohio didn't fix the school safety zone problem until the constitutional carry law was recently enacted. The school safety zone, no, that would actually change prior to constitutional carry, where they talked about being able to enter and drop off children and pick children up and all that kind of thing. But yeah, that was an issue for a while. Tactical Jackalope, wife and he have decided to spend their tourism dollars in red states only. I understand that. Skip was born at the zoo. Katie Cowboy, one guy told me that he was carrying in Wawa appendix, and when he went to pay for his firearm, went to pay, his firearm was exposed for a second. The woman in front of him saw the pistol, told an officer in the parking lot. The man with the gun. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I worry about. When I'm around these parts, I'm not worried about if I bend over to tie my shoe or something happens, wind blows my jacket open, somebody sees I'm carrying a firearm. I couldn't care less when I'm at home. Uh, Someplace like that, then it could be an issue. Matt Lowry, Sears sold a lot of guns. Yes, Sears sold guns. Montgomery Ward sold guns. I think J.C. Penney sold guns. I remember those big old catalogs back in the day, and you'd flip through there and you'd get to the sporting goods section, and there was always whatever 2 or 3 pages worth of firearms and hunting gear and whatever else that were in those catalogs back in the day. As soon as he stepped outside, the officer checked him to see if he had a gun. Yeah, and the officer would be obligated to do that. You know, somebody says that guy's got a gun, especially if it's someplace that someone shouldn't have a firearm. The officer would have an obligation to make sure the person was legally carrying a firearm and not in violation of the law. Tactical Jackalope, Target sold fire. I don't remember Target selling firearms. Does Walmart still sell firearms? In this area, they stopped. They still sell ammunition, or at least they did the last time I looked, but they are not selling firearms anymore at Walmarts around where I live. Gleam Tarist, in the movie Sniper, does anyone know what SIG handgun Beckett carried? It was a SIG 226, which in military parlance would have been the M11. Lane Stobane bought a nice Holley carburetor from J.C. Penney. That's cool. Ben Crane, some Walmarts do. It depends on if it's profitable or not. That's good to know. I wasn't aware whether or not they were still doing that at all. Roy Kiefer, glad you made it. Thanks for coming. No problem with tuning in late. I tried to get a notification out for today's live stream yesterday. I posted it. I actually recorded it when I was out at the range and posted it yesterday afternoon. So I was hoping maybe that would get out there to everyone and you would know about the stream today. And I decided I have been wanting to do the live stream ever since we got back from California and trying to figure out where to fit it in. And of course, it's one of those typical weeks where you've been away for a period of time, actually, between California and South Carolina, that we were away a lot the last month. So it's like trying to catch up on everything you didn't do while you were gone and still keep trying to do all the things you need to get done presently. And it's just one of those kind of weeks. So I'm hoping next week is a little bit more calm. Only long guns at Walmart. I don't think they ever sold handguns around here either. I remember Kmart selling firearms. I bought a 1022 from Kmart a million years ago, back shortly after I got out of the Marine Corps. Howdy to you, Gunmetal Guy. Yeah, Rural King in this area sells firearms too. Steve Detweiler, have you addressed the P320 controversy? No, I haven't. And a lot of people have asked me to weigh in on it, which I think is, I don't know, it kind of catches my attention. I guess people are just interested in what I have to say or what my opinion is on it. My opinion is really that I'm just going to kind of take a wait and see attitude with this. I've got to be honest. When I heard the story about the tragedy involving the airman who was killed recently, uh, when I first got some details on that, I was very, very skeptical as to the first story that came out. And the reason I say that is because I've investigated too many circumstances where someone has claimed that a firearm just went off either. It doesn't even matter. I was cleaning it and it just went off. I dropped it and it just went off. Whatever. And every single time the firearm didn't just go off, the firearm discharged as a result of someone squeezing the trigger. So when I heard that situation, it just didn't sound right to me based on my experience as a police officer. So when a week or so later it came out that there was much more to that and there's been an arrest made and everything, I was not surprised to hear that. None of that does anything to mitigate the tragedy of losing one of our service people needlessly. But uh, like I said, I had a feeling there was going to end up being more to that story. With regard to the 320s themselves, I'm not a SIG 320 armorer. I don't have an absolute encyclopedic knowledge of the mechanics of those firearms. Um, Also, I really feel like it's difficult to get any objective information on that issue presently because it seems like everybody involved in it has some sort of an ulterior motive. The YouTube guys, and I'm not casting aspersions on anyone. I'm not saying this person or that person is not being completely forthright with whatever they're saying. All I'm saying is the YouTube guys have a motive to get views for their videos. So the more enticing or I'm trying to think of a great word here. Um, the more they can do with their videos to get people to watch them, that translates into more views, which is more money as a result of the ad revenue that they get in their videos. The SIG people obviously have a vested interest in this situation. So, can you expect that they're going to absolutely positively say, whatever, our pistol sucks or something like that? I don't think so. Uh, the various people that have been involved in circumstances where the firearm has discharged, they, depending on what lawsuits have been filed or what damages there might be or what have you, they all have a particular vested interest, as do their attorneys and their expert witnesses and everybody else. I will say this with regard to the discharges involving law enforcement officers. Again, I am not saying anything about any specific individual, but it, as a law enforcement firearms instructor, as an armorer, I can tell you that police officers can do or not do things to their firearms that will cause them to operate in a manner other than that which they were designed to. So, that's probably as far as I'm going to go on that topic. Like I said, I don't feel like you can get objective information at this point. I don't feel like I have enough expertise in the matter to weigh in, so I'm just going to wait and see where everything goes. Let's see. Steve Detweiler, you think I should buy one for $150 since the individuals are selling them for that? I don't think I can, in good conscience, make a recommendation one way or the other. What I will say is I have an M18, a SIG 320. It has never fired any other time than when I pulled the trigger. I don't feel overly concerned if I'm carrying it or shooting it on the range or what have you. That said, just routinely, I don't carry that firearm a lot. I'm usually carrying something else. So um, I'm not really worried about mine. I think you'll have to make up your own mind whether or not you think that's going to be a good purchase for you. Ben Crane, I believe the 320 can have problems, but it stems from SIG's cascading changes of parts. I think it can have a problem, but it's very rare. Roy Kiefer does not believe SIG has dealt with the uh, not dealt with its public well. I thought first time I read that, I thought it said had not dealt with the problem well. And I wonder how much of that is driven by their attorneys telling them not to say anything, don't make any statements, whatever. Whenever you're talking to an attorney, the answer will always be no. I don't know if you folks realize that or not. And Ed, back me up on, or Roy, I'm sorry, back me up on this. No is the status quo. No is a known quantity. If you say, "Can I do this?" No means nothing bad is happening now. So if we don't change anything, then hopefully nothing bad will happen moving into the future. Yes is an unknown. Yes means we're going to change something. And if nothing bad is happening at the moment and we change things, then something bad might happen. So an attorney, at least the vast majority of the time, is going to say no rather than yes when asked, is it okay to do this or should we do that or whatever? Marv Turner late to the party again. Well, I'm glad you made it at least. And we'll probably keep. What time is it anyway? 8:53. Probably keep the show going a little longer than the usual hour today because we've got a lot of participation, a lot of people in here. We're up to 52 at the moment that are watching at the moment. No, I'm certain they're not going to go back to the 1911, Skip. Nate Huxtable believes SIG's QC is all over the map, and I am certainly in no position to dispute that. Ben still competing with his Legion 320. Yankinator overhauled my Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0, new barrel, recoil spring assembly, striker assembly, all parts from Smith & Wesson, much cheaper than getting a new pistol. Now, I'm sure that's true. Greg Shearer, will you bring the tank commander out of retirement? You know what? I've been contemplating a 1911 centric video here recently, and if I do that, then the tank commander will definitely be part of that. Steve Detweiler, on another subject, I have a U.S. Texas law shield. If I travel and I call them, they put me in touch with local attorneys. New Jersey said, wait a second, sweep your vehicle and bring nothing firearms related into the state. Yeah, I think you're right, Roy. I think it has been tarnished, and yeah, I don't know. They're still selling a lot of firearms. The P365 is still adored in all of its various iterations. So I don't know. We'll just have to see where it all goes. Brandon Herrera is running for Congress again. I didn't know that. And somebody up, Gleam Tourist is on his way. He's got to go deliver some bread. All right. Well, have a great day. Don't even think about bringing a firearm into New Jersey. Yeah, I don't think I would travel to New Jersey. Uh, New Jersey is another one of those states. I was in New Jersey, well, other than changing airplanes at the Newark airport. I think I was only ever in New Jersey once in my life. And that was another one of those trips that didn't leave me really wanting to go back. South Jersey seemed nice. The sort of rural countryside in southern New Jersey, but I was up in northern Jersey, and it just yeah nothing really there made me want to go back to that area. SIG has a nasty habit of making early adopters their QA brand. A lot of companies, and not just firearms companies, but a lot of companies are doing that these days. Uh, whether we look at automobiles or TVs or whatever, almost name the item, computers. It seems like when the very first brand new version of something comes out, a lot of people say, well, we're going to wait and let somebody else figure out what all the bugs are going to be. And then after those get worked out, then I'll consider purchasing whatever that item might be. Bill 1717, have a great day. Steve Detweiler lived in Jersey for most of the 80s, didn't know any better. And that's when I was there. The time that I was there was, I don't even think I was there for a week, but it was somewhere circa 1987 or 88. Well, I guess 87 now I think about it. I was in Korea in 88. Roy Kiefer, sadly, I have to transit frequently there. Their draconian, absurd anti 2A laws makes things essentially impossible. Yeah, and that's just like going to California. There are some states, if I'm going to Illinois, and I was in Chicago a couple of years ago, some of the other places, when I went to New York City, when I went to Boston, there are just some places that it's, I guess it's not worth the risk for me. I'm not planning on going any places that are going to be a major safety threat while I'm there. Not planning on going out to enjoy the night scene or anything like that, where I'm going to be in bars at 2 a.m. or anything. So I just do a cost benefit analysis on a lot of these things and come up on the end of not carrying a firearm while I'm there. Elaine's Domains, don't see any comments from Roy and others. Really? You might want to check your settings. I'm not sure why you would not be seeing those. But like I said, that was I forgot something else I was going to tell you about the Hollyood trip, specifically with regard to the Oscar that I told you about having the photograph taken. That Oscar was a Best Picture Oscar that was awarded to Warner Brothers Studios, and it was for one of my favorite movies based on probably my favorite fictional work of literature, or at least my favorite fictional work from the last 100 years or so. It was the Oscar for The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Best Picture Oscar. That's the one that I'm holding. And if you can enlarge that picture with me standing there holding that, you can actually read the plaque on the Oscar, and that's what it says on there. 2003 Best Picture, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Roy Kiefer, doesn't Leosa license make it much easier for you to get into I was talking about that a little while ago. Leosa makes it legal for qualified retired police officers, peace officers, they should say, to carry a firearm in any state in the country, but it doesn't excuse those officers from any obligations they would have under state and local law. So, whatever the local laws are, uh, everyone would still have to be in compliance with them, even though that person is a retired peace officer carrying a firearm under Leosa. One of the examples we used were in states that have restrictions for 10-round magazines. If a retired peace officer is from a state where they can carry whatever magazine they want to with whatever capacity they want to, and they go to one of these restrictive states with a 15-round magazine, just because they're carrying a firearm under Leosa, that doesn't make it legal for them to carry a 15, 20, 22 round or whatever magazine. So, that's just one example. And we think about all of the myriad firearm laws in all the various states and all the different local jurisdictions and everything else. Being ignorant of those makes me very leery to just strap on a firearm and go bebopping down the street or into a park or wherever and hope for the best. Yakinator, cooler weather coming next week. Yeah, and it's that's another thing with all the traveling that I've been done and all the times that I've been away from home. When I am home, if it's not raining or otherwise, so inhospitable outside that I can't go out, I've been out recording a lot of video on the range. So I've been out on a lot of these 95-degree days and uh, close to 100-degree days, which we get here in Ohio once in a while, and recording videos. So when you see me out there perspiring and it's soaking through my shirt and everything else, that's why. It's because I'm getting the video done while I have time to do it. (1957) Ford Speedster. You have a good day too. Davy Jones still recommend the FAL as the 308 battle rifle. If you're asking if I am recommending it for modern battlefield use, probably not. The original FAL now is a what 60 something year old design, or 70. Came out in the circa 1950, so I guess 70 years old design. The updated version, and I tested one of those recently. The one that I tested, the enhanced battle carbine, I just no. I think the average troop is going to be better off with something like an M4 that's going to be lighter. The ammunition is going to be lighter. They can carry more of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's odd that the U.S. military is apparently taking a step back to a much heavier rifle with heavier ammunition and all of that. I don't know, that strikes me as odd, and I just don't know that the FAL these days is going to be the best option for troops on the modern battlefield. Nate Huxtable, I want a 940J frame. Yeah, they just released those again, and it's who is it? One of the distributors is selling those. It's an updated version of the Smith & Wesson 940. I just got something and I can't remember. But those are out there once again. It's a little different than the version that I have from back in the early 90s. But if you're looking for a 940, it looks like they're going to be available again. Rich Powers, what is the best hammerless revolver for concealed carry? Thinking about going that way. I don't know about best. Whenever you talk about best, a lot of times there's not really a best, but something that is best for a certain individual. The one that I've been carrying almost exclusively this summer is that model 342, no, 432 ultimate carry 32 H&R Magnum revolver that I reviewed several months ago. That little thing really for me is the ultimate carry revolver because I carry it constantly. It is just so easy to drop in a pocket. It weighs next to nothing. I love that really high visibility front sight on there and a usable rear sight that it has. 6 shots of H&R Magnum. I really like that thing. So that has been my favorite carry revolver for several months now, and I'll probably be dropping it in my pocket here in just a little bit and heading off to the store because I have to pick up a couple of things this morning once the show ends. So that one works very well for me. Beyond that, any of the lightweight J-frame Smith & Wesson hammerless revolvers are going to be a pretty good option when it comes to very discreet concealed carry in a pocket or what have you. I would say just look them over, find the one you think is going to work best for you, and that will be the best for you. uh, Matt, I realize that's the rationale behind changing ammunition and rifles and all that. It still strikes me as a bit odd. Tactical Jackalope, Howard, I know you're a Smith guy, but you really need to get your hands on one of the new Colt Pythons. They are spectacular. I would like to. If I could borrow one, I would like to try it out. I've shot Pythons before, and they're very nice revolvers. I don't have anything against them, other than I don't feel like shelling out whatever it is, $1,500 or something like that, in order to be able to own one. Ben Crane Ruger LCR is nice, but horrifically ugly. Yeah, if we're brutally honest, how many small plastic frame, flat black semi-autos really are appealing visually? When we think about, I don't know, firearms of the past, and I'm thinking specifically it's something like, remember the 380 Browning BDA? I remember somebody had one of those. It was a nickel, bright nickel finish, little semi-auto pistol with beautiful wood grips on it. Man, that was a strikingly good-looking little pistol. And of course, nowadays, nobody would want that because, oh, the reflections off the nickel are going to give your position away, and bad guys will find you, and bad things will happen to you, and all that kind of thing. But it just seems like a couple of decades ago, firearms looked a lot better. Remember, high luster blue and high luster nickel finishes and engraving and all those kind of things that were done once upon a time, and that has all gone out the window. Everything nowadays is flat black and half plastic. Poly revolvers are disgustingly ugly. I can't disagree with you, Ben. Tactical Jackalope. I knew that. I remember reading an account of that some time ago. And wow, I am caught up with the comments. And what are we looking at time-wise here? 9:10. I think we'll keep things going for another 5 minutes or so. So if you have any last-minute questions, comments, or anything to throw out for the good of the order, feel free to do so. And as long as we're coming down to the end of the show, I am going to... Oh no, I was going to put my star back up and it's gone. Maybe I can get it again. Hold on, folks. I'm doing some technical stuff here. There we go. So once again, I've got my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame displayed prominently behind me here. Be sure if you're walking down Hollywood Boulevard to keep an eye out for it and get yourself a photograph standing on it. But if you do stand on it and take a photograph, I get a royalty. So be sure to have your credit card standing by. Tactical Jackalope, is the Walther PP/PPK still relevant? I don't know about relevant, but I like mine and I carry it periodically. Roy Kiefer, once upon a time, firearms were works of art. Now they're just tools. Yes, I agree. That has been a shift in the paradigm over the last couple of decades. Skip is apparently leaving us. Have a great day, Skip. Roy Kiefer, your friend's college football season starts today. Yeah, it is getting to be that time of year, and I noticed when was that? I guess this morning when I went outside when I took Chewy out. I thought, wow, this feels almost more like a fall morning than a late summer morning. So yeah, we are definitely getting toward football season. The NFL preseason is already underway, and everybody's getting excited for the Browns already, as they always do this time of year until the regular season starts, and then all that evaporates. Ben Crane still remembers the price of that Walter. Texel Jackalope, how about a magnificently engraved gold-plated Beretta EEL? Oh, over under for 100,000. Yeah, I probably won't be picking one of those up anytime soon. Jeff Tim, do you have a court/barbecue gun? Yeah, I've got a couple of them actually. I really like that little 2.5-inch Model 19 Smith & Wesson that I have, and I've got the faux ivory grips on it with the chrome-plated Tyler T grip adapter. The bluing on that is very, very nice, and I think that it sets it off very nicely with that white grip and the grip adapter. So that's one. My nickel Smith & Wesson Model 39 is another one. I've got the one that it's a not a Browning high power, but it's a P35 high power that was redone by BH Spring Solutions a couple of years ago, and they put a simulated trying to think what the finish is called, like they do on the Smith & Wesson hammers and triggers, color case hardening. It's got a simulated color case hardening finish on the hole outside of the pistol. They've reworked the action, all that. That's another very nice looking pistol, so that would qualify under the barbecue gun category. So I got a few of them. Yeah, I thought I saw another question in here. Do you have a Bond Arms Derringer? No, I don't. My dad used to have one, but I do not have one. Ron Picard, would you do more videos on Smith & Wesson or the M1? I guess that's supposed to be M1 Grand. I'm a Smith & Wesson man and have their weapons. I'm going to have another Smith & Wesson video coming up soon. I don't know about an M1 video, but I am going to have a M1A centric video coming up here in the near future. So watch for that one. Like I said, I've got a ton of stuff in, and it's just a matter of getting stuff sort of prioritizing and figuring out when I need to get certain products recorded and when I need to get videos out and all that kind of thing. But I've got a lot of stuff coming, so just stay tuned. By the way, let me remind everyone, I typically put out 2 videos per week. If you're not seeing 2 videos per week, that means YouTube is not sending you the notifications for the videos. So check out my channel page. You can go there and just click on the video tab, and it'll list all the videos in order, and you can see any of those that you might have missed during the course of however long you haven't been getting notifications. Also, something to check out. I've had a lot of people telling me lately that they got unsubscribed by YouTube and they had to resubscribe. So that's another thing. If you're not seeing video notifications coming up, check your subscriptions and make sure you're still subscribed to the channel, because for whatever reason, they seem to be unsubscribing people with some regularity. All right, gang, I think I'm going to start wrapping things up. Thank you all for joining me for my Hollyood live stream. I hope you enjoyed hearing the stories. And as always, thank you very much for now almost 13 years worth of support. I tell people all the time, I have the best viewers on the internet. That includes all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. For everyone who watches the videos and posts the comments and participates in the chats and joins in the live streams. I I do what I do on YouTube because of my interaction with all of you. Believe me, it is not because I'm making a ton of money, and it's not because I so love working with YouTube. It is absolutely for all of you, and thank you so much for your support. For my channel members who actually make a monthly donation to the channel, a special thank you to you. Things are starting to pick up ad revenue wise a little bit at the moment, but it was definitely down throughout the summer. And that donation that you all make every month just helps out enormously. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone, have a great day. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. We'll do this again soon. And until next time, see you in the movies.